President Trump's talks of annexing our country through economic coercion. Well, Canadians have made it very clear that we will not back down and we will not give in to this coercion, ultimately starting this war. President Trump's tariffs against you are causing that, and there are no winners in a trade.
Tonight, a warning from Canada that Washington did not see coming. Cameco, one of the world's largest uranium producers, has issued a stark message to the United States. A 10% tariff on Canadian uranium will trigger a 10% spike in global uranium prices, and the United States will pay every cent of it. This is not speculation. This is basic economics playing out in real time. The United States operates 94 nuclear reactors across 28 states. These reactors generate nearly 20% of America's electricity. And here's the problem. Washington refuses to acknowledge 27% of all uranium purchased by American nuclear plants comes from a single country, Canada. Canada is not just a supplier. Canada is the largest foreign source of uranium for the United States. And unlike aluminum or lumber, uranium cannot be replaced with a phone call. There is no backup plan. There is no quick fix. Tonight, we examine how a tariff designed to pressure Canada is now backfiring on the very industry America needs most, its nuclear power sector. Let us begin with the numbers that explain why Washington is quietly panicking. In 2023, American nuclear reactors consumed approximately 45 million pounds of uranium. How much of that did the United States produce domestically? Less than 1%. In 2022, U.S. mines produced just 75 metric tons of uranium, representing 0.02% of global production. That is not a typo, 0.02%. The United States was once the world's leading uranium producer. Between 1953 and 1980, America dominated global output. But those days are gone. Today, the country that operates the world's largest nuclear fleet mines almost nothing. So, where does the uranium come from? Canada supplies 27%, the largest share from any foreign nation. Australia and Kazakhstan each provide 22%. Russia, before sanctions, contributed 12%. The math is brutal. The United States imports nearly everything it needs to keep the lights on at 94 nuclear reactors. And Canada is not just any supplier. The Athabasca Basin in northern Saskatchewan contains the world's highest grade uranium deposits, 10 to 100 times richer than deposits found anywhere else on Earth. This is not a marginal advantage. This is geological dominance. When President of the United States, Donald Trump, imposed a 10% tariff on Canadian energy imports, including uranium, he was not pressuring a replaceable trading partner. He was taxing the country that holds America's nuclear fuel supply in its hands. Now here is where the policy collapses under its own weight. Grant Isaac, Chief Financial Officer of Cameco, said it plainly on an earnings call in February 2025. A 10% proposed tariff from a major supply source like Canada will effectively raise the uranium price by 10%. It is kind of Econ 101. He explained further, U.S. domestic demand for uranium is inelastic. Utilities have contracted volumes. They cannot simply cancel orders or switch suppliers overnight. Nuclear reactors do not run on wishes. They run on uranium. And when you tax the primary supplier, the cost passes directly to American buyers. But the damage does not stop there. Isaac pointed out that non-tariff countries, Australia, Kazakhstan, and Namibia, will not lower their prices to help America. They will raise their prices to just below the tariff threshold. Why sell cheaper when America has no choice but to pay more? This is the trap. A 10% tariff does not hurt Canada. It inflates the entire global uranium market. And America, as the world's largest nuclear power consumer, absorbs the blow. The Center for Strategic and International Studies published an analysis that should alarm every policymaker in Washington. A 25% tariff on Canadian mineral imports, including uranium, could cost U.S. buyers an additional $11.75 billion. That figure increases as uranium prices recover, and prices are recovering fast. Some in Washington might argue, build more domestic mines, restart American production, achieve energy independence. This is fantasy dressed as policy. Building a uranium mine is not like opening a factory. It requires years of exploration, environmental review, permitting, construction, and workforce development. The United States has exactly one operational uranium mill. the White Mesa Mill in Utah. The infrastructure that once made America a uranium superpower no longer exists. Even with political support, expanding domestic production would take a decade or more, and the grades of American uranium deposits are far lower than Canada's. Mining them is more expensive and less efficient. The Trump administration has announced plans to quadruple US nuclear capacity by 2050, from 100 gigawatts to 400 gigawatts. This is an ambitious goal that requires massive amounts of uranium. Where will it come from? Ontario Premier Doug Ford stated it bluntly. In October 2025, they are in desperate need of our energy. They have 94 turbines that rely on Canadian uranium. He is correct. And desperation is not leverage. Desperation is vulnerability. Here's what makes this situation even more dangerous for the United States. Canada does not need America as much as America needs Canada. In 2024, 75% of Canadian uranium hexafluoride exports went to Europe. Only 24% went to the United States. Canada has already diversified. Europe is hungry for stable, non-Russian uranium supply. Asia is building nuclear reactors at unprecedented speed. China alone has 30 reactors under construction, with nearly 200 more planned or proposed. Cameco executives have stated publicly that they are exploring further diversification away from the US market towards Central and Eastern Europe. If tariffs persist, Canada will simply redirect supply to buyers who pay market price without political interference. This is the strategic miscalculation at the heart of President of the United States Donald Trump's tariff policy. Tariffs assume the supplier has no alternatives. Canada has plenty. Meanwhile, the United States has banned Russian uranium imports, effective 2024, with limited waivers through 2028. This was meant to reduce dependence on adversaries, but it only increases dependence on Canada at the exact moment Washington is taxing Canadian imports. The policy contradicts itself. America needs more Canadian uranium to replace Russian supply, and America is simultaneously making Canadian uranium more expensive. Let us be clear about what is happening. This is not a trade dispute that can be solved with negotiations or exemptions. This is a structural vulnerability, decades in the making. The United States outsourced its uranium production, it dismantled its mining infrastructure, it became dependent on imports for 95% of its nuclear fuel, and now, a single policy decision, a 10% tariff, threatens to raise costs across the entire nuclear industry, increase electricity prices for American consumers, and undermine the very energy security that the administration claims to prioritize. Canada is not escalating. Canada is not retaliating. Canada is simply stating the obvious. If you tax our uranium, prices will rise, and you will pay. The question for American policymakers is uncomfortable, but unavoidable. Is this tariff strategy strengthening energy security, or is it exposing a dependency that tariffs cannot fix? 94 nuclear reactors, 20% of American electricity, 27% from Canada, 0 alternatives. Those are not talking points. Those are facts. And facts do not negotiate. Is this a bold strategy or a historic miscalculation for the United States? Subscribe for more fact-based global analysis.